My name is Praveen. I am the Executive Director of Admissions and Enrollment here at HTS. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about our school and talk about some of the opportunities that we have in our program just as a whole at HTS as we are a K-12 campus. And I'll also talk a little bit about our new online program as well. I think the key when I share this slide with people, I always say the most important part beyond the fact that it's Holy Trinity School or HTS as we call it, is curiosity changes everything. And when I look at that, I always think when you're looking for a school where your children are going to come, you want to set them up so that they're happy, they're absolutely love to learn, and that feeling of wonder never goes away. So whether they come into kindergarten or middle school or even high school, we always are looking for kids who are naturally curious and are excited about joining a community where they can learn and challenge themselves and take risks. Okay. Our vision here at HTS is something that I really align with, and I hope it aligns with what you're thinking. And that's, we are an inclusive learning network where our learners are inspired to become the best version of themselves. By experiencing self-discovery and connection, learners can ignite, explore, and fulfill their curiosity because HTS knows that transforming lives transforms the world. I share a little quote in terms of from a parent and who talks a little bit about how important this vision of HTS is and sort of how it has helped her family and her children. And I think that when you visit our campus, you'll get quickly get a good sense of what the campus is all about. And hopefully for your son or for your daughter, you'll feel like this could be a place for them next year. I like the quote, "The vision is reflective of everything our society needs from children. Building leaders who are confident, kind, respectful, and innovative. HTS education is superior and facilities allow students the experiential and academic learning model or academic learning needed to excel and prepare for elite universities. We're so happy with our choice to send our children to HTS." And I want to be careful when we think about elite universities, your children are going to kindergarten or grade 1. And our focus really is to help them enjoy the learning experience, though I know a parent has talked about sort of the final outcome, which we recognize is something that's top of mind for families, even for our kindergarten students, right? So I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to give you a sort of an overview of HTS. I'm going to talk about our school sort of from a learning network perspective, talk about our campus, talk a little bit about our global online campus, and then I'll review the admissions process and then provide time for questions, anything that's sort of top of mind or you're thinking about. Is that okay for you?
Yep, yeah. I think everything's super good.
Perfect. So our school started or was founded in 1981. If you were to walk into our school, you will get a sense, and I know you've been through our school before, there's 825 students across from kindergarten through to grade 12. And there's over 200 plus student clubs. And really, depending on what your children are excited or interested in doing, yes, it's probably a little early to figure that out right now, but we have activities from sports to student life, example, leadership activities, student government, student council, we would call that, things like robotics, music programming, Model UN. So just there's so many options. And as you're thinking about this journey and this learning journey for your children, it's really important to give them that exposure and have, that type of access. We launched our new school this past year. So September 2023, we launched a new online school, which is open only for grade 9 to 12 students. So the goal with that is we're taking our 825 who are on campus in Richmond Hill, but we're also opening it up to students who are around the world who want access to an HTS education. So we're giving them very similar resources and access points, but they can be virtually. They can be virtual. There are moments that they can participate in and be on campus and take advantage of some of our service trips and co-curricular activities. But all in all, the essence of the online school is to be creating sort of a virtual hub, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Normally, each year we have about 100 graduates from grade 12. This past year, we had 88 students, and I'll talk a little bit about where these students have gone. But what I think when I think about our graduates, and again, far into the future for the two of you, but as you think about where our students are going, our students are getting into universities all around the world. And it's what's most important here, I think, is we have a student success team, and the coaches and advisors work with their students to help determine the programs that would be interesting and important for them to pursue. And that journey begins around grade 11, but certainly well before that, our students are encouraged to start thinking about these and having conversations with different advisors. We've got universities coming on campus. We have trips where we take our students around to see these different schools. And because HTS grads have something very unique, and that's not only do they have a strong academic profile, but we spend a lot of time making sure they're involved and in enriching activities that are co-curricular. And that, from having worked in a university prior, I would tell you that is just as important, if not more important, when you think about where your son or your daughter is going to be going to school. You want to make sure that they're striking that ideal balance, because the reality is most kids, if not all, have excellent grades, but not all kids are involved in extracurriculars within their school community. And so how do we prepare our children, our students, to be involved in leadership activities, to give them that edge as they think about where the future is going to be, is really important for us, right? After this meeting, I'll certainly send you a copy of some of our stats and details in terms of where our students have gone. I'll send you a admissions handbook, just so that you have a digital copy for yourselves.
I'm sorry, I might just jump in.
Yeah, please, sorry.
Maybe please go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
OK，那我就简单的把刚才这2张非常重要的 slide 给咱们线上的以及线下的家长朋友们，咱们再稍微的我 debrief 一下。就是一个比较重要的点呢，是我们能够看到 HTS 的校区实际上是很大的，从 JK 到12年级。那么比较重要的一个亮点呢，也是他们的学生 club 有超过250个以上。那么各种各样的活动，包括从music 就是比较艺术方面的表演方面的，或者说是自己比较热爱艺术、绘画或者是音乐，就是全面发展的这一块 HTS 的资源实际上是非常之雄厚的。And can we please go to the next slide?
Sure.
那么接下来呢，我们可以看到，其实他们每一年的 graduate 的人数呢，是相对来讲是一个就是控制的一直是非常的精细的，在88个学生左右。那么大家从这个 HTS 得到了很多的培养之后呢，我们从下面学校的 logo 也可以看出来，他们实际上是前往世界各地来进行高等教育接下来的求学。那 HTS 更加一个比较重要的点是，他们在帮助学生，也就是做咨询啊，或者说是在学校的 advisor 或者是 guidance 这个方面，对于每一个学生的支持是非常到位的，而且对于学生们更多的 attention 方面呢，这个也是家长朋友们可以 rest assured 可以很放心的一点。那刚才 Praveen 也有提到哈。我们现在可以看见一个趋势，就是分数是实际上有一些不断的这个膨胀，或者说我们可以看见的是，很多学生现在基本上从高中毕业到升大学的这个阶段，他们的成绩都在可能93、95，甚至比这个更高。那么在这种情况之下，孩子们怎么样继续脱颖而出？这个之后 Praveen 也会提到。但是呢，HTS它做的很好的一点呢，是由于它有非常数量很庞大的这样的这个 extracurricular 就是课外活动的这样的一些加持，它能够保证孩子们在学习的过程当中，不仅仅只是学术强，不仅仅只是分数高，而是能够在很小的时候就有专门的学校的 resource，有这样的资源倾斜，能够让他们一步一步的可能找到自己比较喜欢的一些学习的方向啊，或者说之后兴趣的一些爱好上面的培养啊，这样就可以保证孩子们在成长的过程当中，不仅仅只是学术好，而是他确实在别的这个领域也有自己的一技之长，也能够在学习的过程当中得到不断的培养。所以这一点是我觉得我们可以再重申一下，也是刚才 Praveen 对于 HTS 感到非常非常 proud、非常自豪的一点。
Any questions? No. Okay. So I went to highlights of the senior school. This can be, I'm going to start with the senior school and I'll talk a little bit about junior and middle or lower and middle school if necessary or needed. I talk a little bit about the senior school because grade 9 is one of the biggest entry points. So when we look at entry points into HTS kindergarten, so JK is the number one point where we would add 16 students. Grade 1, where we'll add another about 20 students. And then grade 4, we take about 6 to 8 students. Grade 6, we add 20 students again. And then in grade 9, we add about 35 to 40 students. So for families who are looking, these are the ideal entry points, but we always encourage people to apply to non-entry grades as well. If you have, as you said, your child's going to SK. So is it a boy or a girl? Boy. So what we would say is, and yours is boy too. So if your sons are going into JK or SK, you always start this process much earlier, and if they've come through the process and we just don't have space. I know for SK this year, I think we took 1 student in total. Grade 1 is likely the best place to be. So I would say, as you're thinking this through and sort of making some plans, start this in the fall again. We'll have to restart this piece. I don't know if your son, hasn't even, you haven't even applied yet.
I haven't submitted the full application.
Okay, and that's okay.
Halfway.
Halfway.
Yeah, it's 1 minute. Saying that you don't have any slots this year.
Yes, yeah, we don't have spots. So we may always say complete the application if you wish to. If something opens up, we'll contact you. If it doesn't open up, we'll invite you to reapply 1st January for 2025. And what we typically give families a very short window to do that. And then we would consider your son for round 1 in the fall for 2025, right?
If there any possibility that you guys will have 1 more class?
For SK, no, there's absolutely no possibility in the current moment because we just don't have the physical capacity. If we could add another building or something, then maybe there's a chance, or we could look to just not right now. It's just not something we could actually facilitate. So if your son's happy and currently in some place or a program, keep them there. If it's just something you have to make a change, then we certainly understand, and we may have this conversation again in grade 4 or grade 6 or maybe later. But I don't know where you've landed, but we can always talk about that afterwards if you like, right? So I start with the senior school because I was initially thinking about the target group of people who might be interested in this. I was thinking they'd want to know about our senior school in grade 9. And leadership, as I would say to you, is every student. I can't reinforce how important our school or our student profile is. And universities are moving away from grades because everybody's got 90% or 95%. Everyone's pushing their children to be better in school. But what people are not doing always is encouraging their children to be part of the leadership activities. And so sometimes that compromise of going for more math classes or more English classes or more anything school related sometimes is done while compromising the opportunities to take on leadership experiences in the school. And so I would say in our senior school, we put a lot of time and focus to giving our children those opportunities and encouraging them to do it. And at the end of the day, they've got to do it. But leadership can be found through student council. It can be found through sports. It can be found through different places. The style in which we offer our education or sort of our students will experience it is very collaborative. Yes, there's a space and a place for individualized learning and customized learning for each child, but we are also giving them projects and we want them to solve and think and try to figure out problems, identify those problems and solutions in situations. And so we have these things called hackathons, and we give a problem that a company is trying to solve. And then the students working in groups have to find these solutions and then present them back to the companies. And this starts in grade 9, 10, and 11. So we have these internship program opportunities, and project-based learning is something that's very much integrated into the learning experience for our high school. And if you sort of drop down even to the middle school, there is what we call interdisciplinary learning. So we show our students how the various subjects are connected. So children aren't learning math as a standalone. Yes, they have math class, but then they also integrate math with maybe design and maybe gym or physical education. And how does that connect? And you're sitting there thinking, there's no way I can make those connections. But if you think about math in terms of measurement. You think about design in terms of building a model or sort of a design protocol. And then you think about chocolate and how you make a mold of chocolate, and then you use gym to figure out how many calories you need to burn that chocolate. It allows our children to figure out the connection between physical exercise, a design class, and math, right? And that's just one example. Years ago, they were doing something between math and music. And so building an instrument, learning on the frequency of these instruments and sort of how the sounds of the frequency is, right? So there's experiences that are not your traditional experiences that you and I probably grew up going to when we went to school, but our children are having a very different experience in this at HTS. I talked a little bit about internships, again, something that's an opportunity for students to have exposure to. If they're interested in and passionate about a certain area, we can connect them with our alumni, with our parents, to have these 1 week or sort of weekly connection or meetings with people where they can learn more about a specific area. And this is something that we're also offering through our HTS Global Online Campus. So for families who are living in different parts of the world, we can connect and help students have those connections with organizations in their local area as well, right? Sorry, I think I've talked a lot. So I feel like you two understand what I'm saying, but does it need a translation or you want to?
Great, and there are also people
Sure,
online
yes, yeah, no problem.
take that
For sure.
opportunity
I
too.
forgot, yes.
Yeah. All right， 所以我现在呢就把刚才这个 Praveen 比较 highlight 的几个跟 Senior School 也就是高中部相关的一些比较重要的点，咱们再来重新的重申一下。同时呢，这里面也有很多是他们从初中部就已经开始在不断的培养然后再锻炼他们的学生们了。其中一个呢就是学生领导力。那这个领导力呢，刚才 Praveen 也有提到哈，就是现在在分数不断膨胀、有通胀的这个前提之下，孩子们就很多时候可能或者说咱们家长会不自觉的就把这个视线更多的放在和学术相关的一些课外的活动上，或者说课外的学习上。但是 Praveen 以他的经验，包括他这个自己看到的这个趋势，我们可以说，其实不是特别多的学生在领导力这个方面都有很多的这个体验或者说是经验，所以这一点实际上是很多学生的短板。那也有不少学生呢，是从可能11年级开始才去想我要怎么样去把这个领导力锻炼起来，或者说我12年级的时候我要赶快的做一些什么，然后这样让我的 profile 可能好看一点，或者这样让我的申请能够更顺利一些。但是呢，这种短时间内可能这个深度和宽度都不够的这样的体验，在申请当中往往是起不到决定性或者说是真正的帮助。那么也就是说，学生领导力的培养要从小抓起，或者说他要尽早的去 infiltrate， 尽早的去渗透进孩子们的日常学习生活当中。那么他们逐渐的养成了这种意识，那可能自己会有一些很好的想法。那么 HTS 这个方面呢，它就有非常多种的这样的机会，有的是学校会组织孩子们来进行的一系列活动，那还有的呢是可能和这个往年的毕业生以及家长群体有一些联动，那么有1周左右的时间，那这个是在高中阶段可能会给到孩子们更多的像一些 internship 一样的机会，自己去像做实习，像做一个项目一样来累积一些非常超前的这样的经验，比如说自己的能力的培养，或者说是独立思考，或者说协同合作，或者是小组作业，就是从各种不同的维度能够比较好的，或者说是非常高效的去利用 HTS 自己这个 network 里面的一些资源，然后来帮助他所有不管是线下 campus 还是他 online campus 的学生们来 benefit 到这个资源。那还有一个呢，就是他们的这个从中学开始就有跨学科的这样的体验。那之前 Praveen 也举了一个非常有意思的 example， 就是不同学科之间的联动和不同学科之间他们究竟是怎么样相互串联、相互连接在一起的。这些是以不同的视角来打开孩子们的视野，比如说用数学来解读音乐。 或者说用体育课上的一些活动来解读design 设计上的一些东西。那这些包括很多不同其他的学科的叠加呢，能够让孩子们在我们听起来都感觉非常有意思。那在孩子他自己好奇心非常旺盛的这个阶段，他们会在学习当中找到更多的乐趣，从而从兴趣出发，然后自己也有这个机会去做更多独立的 research， 更多独立的调查或者更多独立的学习。那么在这个过程当中，当然他也会全面的提升自己本身的学习能力，对于以后都是大有裨益的。
I feel like you said more than I said. Maybe she should present. I'm just kidding. So, I talked about experiential learning, and one thing I wanted to bring your attention to also is that our students have these amazing experiences to travel the world. And so this past year, we had a couple of trips going out to Italy. And so if your children are interested and not in JK or SK, but in sort of in the high school, they have those experiences to go with teachers and sort of experience the world. In past years, they've gone to different parts of Thailand at one point, and so different experiences. And it's all reflecting within their learning experience. It's not just a tourist trip, but it's also connecting with other students who are here in the school. And if a student was in our online school, they would have that similar experience to meet and connect with other students who are studying online or in different partner schools around the world. So we do believe in that face-to-face, which is really valuable, but also believing in the idea of challenging our children and our students to be outside their comfort zone. And this is one of those experiences through experiential learning and service trips where our students have those amazing experiences. Again, not in JK or SK. So our online school, as I said, we launched this last September. I would bring a few things that are sort of really, really important. And again, not for, as you're thinking about this, thinking really even for friends and people who you think might need that type of support with your children. One of the benefits of the online school is you can finish high school in 3 years instead of 4 years, just because of the way the structure of the program is. So we allow 8 subjects per year, but then there's 2 summer school subjects, which is not the norm in your traditional high schools. So our students who are thinking about direct entry medical programs and thinking about looking for the fast track way through university, this is one opportunity where they can potentially fast track. Alternatively, they can fast track and then take a year to do experiential learning in that final year where they're immersed in some sort of a work term or a co-op term or something that they're passionate about before they head off to university or college. The schedule, people always ask, what's the schedule like? Our schedule, we say, is very similar to university schedule. When you're thinking about that, and I don't know if you went to university here in Canada or not, it's very similar. So we do have school in the mornings. It's in a sort of a synchronous learning experience. And in the afternoons, there's group work. And there's opportunities for one-to-one mentorship with the teachers and just some asynchronous learning as well. We, like I said, about just how we connect our HTS campus students through to the university placements. We have a very high touch, high support program to help each of our graduates get through and finish the program, but I also identify the universities of their choice and programs of their choice. And very similar to campus, we offering all of the similar items, except that experience is done from your home or anywhere in the world, which can be very attractive for certain students who require a flexible schedule. So.
对。OK， 那接下来的这个呢 ，HTS 的 Global Online Campus， 这个实际上是HTS 最新在去年9月份刚刚开的这样的一个线上的 campus。那这个 campus 呢，包括它自己本身的 program 有几个比较这个亮点啊，一个是最快的话大概3年的时间，compared to regular 4年的时间，从高中毕业3年就可以把这个高中完全也是符合 Ontario curriculum。
Yes.
Right. 这个要求的可以3年就完成，然后呢，这就非常适合，比如说有一些学生可能想尽快的这个，比如从国内来，然后他想很快的衔接，或者说是他希望可以尽早的去 pursue 这个 higher education 去大学上课或者说是入学，那这个的话呢 HTS 这个 Global Online Campus 它也是支持的。那同时呢 学生们在去大学之前呢的 summer，他们就是这个暑假的时间，他们会很好的去利用。比如说呢，有一些 co-op 的机会，有一些 internship，可能是做实习的机会，就可以让孩子们在上大学之前，从自己比较喜欢的方向去再进一步的体验，然后更加的确信我大学究竟要学什么，或者说我对我学习的东西到底有没有一个比较深刻或者比较真实的这样的一个了解。那这样的话呢，也是会在后期起到一个很好的这种指导的作用。那除此之外呢，还有1对1的 mentorship，孩子们如果有什么样的问题，这些其实就是完全和他们的线下 campus 是对齐的，就是对标线下的 campus，那边的学生有能够体验到什么样的资源，学校有什么样的辅助，那这些呢都是在 online campus 也是完全可以做到的。同时不管是对于大学的选择、专业的选择，还是说对于孩子们在专业上寻求一些，比如说建议啊，或者说是老师可能给到一些比较专业的帮助啊，这些都是可以在一个比较灵活的这个 schedule基础之上来进行执行的。所以HTS Online Campus 是一个非常有特色的这样的项目，也是其实咱们加拿大为数不多在线下有自己就是full day operation 的情况之下，或者前提之外，还有自己的一个线上的 campus。那它这样的话，肯定也是可以 reach 到更多的有需求的学生，从全世界各地是这样子。然后他们也会有这个 experiential learning，就是体验式的学习可以去 travel 呀，然后呢会有一些这种探究式的，从这个体验当中自己来进行更多的学习，然后最后再学以致用，再最后回归到自己本身校内学习的东西。
And I would say for anybody who's applying or thinking about applying for 2024, we actually do have some space in this because we're a new program and we're trying to grow. So I would say for grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, certainly there's opportunities. And for students who are thinking about coming to campus at some point, we can certainly talk about that. For some students, they may prefer to stay wherever they are living in their home rather than going off onto a boarding school and spending 1 or 2 years in an online school and then coming here for grade 11 or 12. So depending on the students on a case-by-case basis, we sometimes can make that adjustment. Yeah.
然后这个因为是一个非常崭新的 program，那么我们如果有家长朋友们对于今年9月份入学还比较感兴趣，想要更多了解的话呢，那么 Praveen 刚才提到现在的 online campus 从9年级到12年级还是有一些 flexibility， 还是有一些咱们可以推进的空间，所以这些咱们欢迎家长朋友们可以留言，或者可以把问题打在这个 chat box 里面，那之后我们也会一起来 take up。OK。
Okay, thank you. Course offerings, I'll skip through this just because we have lots of courses both in our campus, online. That's never been an issue in terms of a shortage of courses. And in the lower school and middle school, it's a pretty prescribed curriculum, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. What I am going to talk to you about is the admissions component and then provide some time for questions. So how does this admissions work as you're thinking? And I say grade 6 to 12 only because there's a certain component that's relevant for 6 to 12 students. But as you're applying for SK grade 1, there's a lot of components that are very similar. So I'll speak to that as well, just for the interest in this group. First step, complete the application. The new application for 2025 will be available on August 1st, 2024. So as long as you've submitted an inquiry, you will get a reminder and encouragement to complete the application. We look at your grades for the last 2 years, or the child's grades and how they report cards for the final 2 years. So in this case, if they're applying for September 2025, we'd want to see the 2024 school report cards, fall term report cards, and then we'll want to see the end of this year, 2024 report card. So June. Now, if you're applying for JK or SK, whatever the most recent report card you have, if it's only one, it's fine. If a child's applying for kindergarten only, we just look at the nursery reports or Montessori if it's available. So we're a little bit more flexible. The big thing for younger families or younger students is we bring them in and spend a day or a morning with us. It's called a discovery visit, where we then assess the student and see where they're at. They do this all in small groups of 10 to 12 students. For middle school, this is where it's a little different. We actually ask our middle school students, we invite them for an interview. And so there's a student interview for about 20 to 30 minutes where we ask them to tell us about themselves. We want to hear sort of what they've done, experiences. So in terms of preparing for these interviews, we'll talk a lot more about this with students who are interested. But what happens is we'll want them to start thinking of examples of how they're involved in their school or in their community. And what we're looking for is, will the student be a good fit at HTS? And how we know that is, will they be involved in our community? So if a child comes to the school, is really, really smart, but doesn't do anything else, then we're not necessarily guaranteeing that they'll have a spot at the school, because it's more important that they can enrich the community. So grades are just one aspect, but grades without excellent commitment to extracurriculars isn't going to help a child, right? And so I would never want you to walk out of this to think, okay, now I've got to enroll my child into soccer or baseball or robotics or anything else of that. But whatever they're doing in their school, it's again age appropriate. They need to pick and do things that show that they're involved. And in the younger grades, it's a little different. We're looking at their learning skills and how they engage with their peers. And those are things you'll see in the report cards right now. As your son is finishing JK, there will be something in his report card that says, how does he play with other kids? How does he engage? Those are the most important things. And then when he comes for our visit, we'll check his reading, very little on the writing, but his reading, his fine motor skills, a little bit of numeracy and sort of recognition of numbers. So we want to see where kids are and how they are according to other kids of a similar age. So we don't necessarily, particularly for JK to 1, we don't compare one JK to another JK. We actually compare a JK who's born in May to another JK born in May. So we try to do it based on their birth month if we can. And we have sort of a metric of how we look at these things, because children's development changes and it's very different from January born to December. So we recognize that. In the middle school, kids having to do a presentation. So there's an interview, but we also ask our students to do a 2 to 3 minute presentation about a specific question. So we'll give them the question in advance and they have to present. How they present, it's entirely up to them. We give them a lot of freedom to do whatever they want. Often they bring something physical and they show it to us, kind of like show and tell. And that's our way of getting a sense of the passion of a child and what they're interested in. Any questions so far on that, or do you want to translate that?
Yeah, I would want to jump into translation.
OK，那现在就来到了我们大家就非常关注的这个招生的环节。然后从比较小的这个申请者的话呢，前面几个环节是差不多一样的。首先是这个新的2025年9月份入学的申请会在今年的8月1号就开放。那这个实际上相对于其他大部分的学校来讲是比较早的，所以咱们对于 HTS 很感兴趣的家长朋友们可以 mark 一下这个 date， 然后提早的进行准备，并且提早的把自己的这个申请完成，是 Praveen 也提到是比较鼓励的啊。然后呢，第二个的话呢，是他会看过去2年的这个成绩单，包括申请当年最新的阶段性的成绩单，也就是说9月份开学，那么11、12月份有可能会收到新的一个阶段性的 review， 那么这一个 progress report card 也要给学校一起附上啊，然后。年龄比较小的同学呢，会被学校邀请来进行一个 visit day， 或者是就是早上的时间，可能会在学校里面度过，然后可能会有一些集体的团体的活动，大概10到12个学生左右。那么大家在一块儿，这个时候也就是让HTS 的招生老师们来去详细的或者说近距离的观察一下孩子们在玩的时候，在学的时候，然后在集体当中他自己的这个表现是怎么样子的，更多的是一个对于他学习习惯的这样的一个了解。那么从中学开始呢，学生就要开始接受 interview。那么 interview 的话是20到30分钟。那最主要的几个点呢，一个是对于自己，首先可能介绍一下自己这些是比较常规的一些问题。但是HTS 在这个过程当中呢，同时它也会比较详细或者着重的问学生，为什么你是 HTS 在寻找的学生呢？或者为什么你从哪些方面是可以让 HTS 的校区变得更好，变得更多元化，或者是变得更加的丰富你是会从什么样的角度或者是层面来帮助我们 一起把学校的校区建设得更好。那这个对于中学的孩子们来讲，实际上不是一个特别就是立刻就能回答出来的问题。这也是为什么学校会提前把这样的问题给到学生们，然后给他们一些时间来提前的进行准备。当他们到了面试的那一天的时候，他们会展示一个2到3分钟的 presentation。那在这个 presentation 里面，孩子们就将比较这个详细的介绍一下为什么我觉得我很适合 HTS， 这同时也是 HTS 能够稍微的 push 一下潜在的这些申请者们，然后看一看他们对于自己的定位、对于学校的理解，以及对于他自己和学校的适配度到底是一个什么样的定位，所以这个是比较关键的一点啊。然后最后还有一点呢，就是 parent interview， 这个一会儿 Praveen 也会提到。如果咱们家长朋友们在这个期间有任何的问题，咱们就随时在 chat 里面打出来，好吗？OK， 你的 parent
Thank you.
interview part.
Final part, parent interview. This is the toughest part because it's the parents who have to deal with this part. We invite our families. So we always say here at HTS, it's not just the student who's coming to our school, it's the parents as well. So it is important to have a partnership. And when we meet our families, we're looking for parents who are willing to be partners. And that's really important because regardless of how old your child is, we as a school and the teachers are going to be working with our parents to support them, to answer questions, to help your child get through each of those grades and those important milestones. And there are going to be moments where they don't meet their requirements or something, there's a challenge. We need our parents to understand and be supportive and helpful in ensuring that their children are going to be sort of on the right path. So we interview the parents separately from their kids. And what we're looking for with the parents is just an understanding of how they engage, how they support their children, what's their own philosophy as a parent. And so I'm giving you the questions. So this is where you can at least prepare yourself and think about how do I want to come to that interview. And you're not meeting just with me, you're meeting with somebody, sometimes the principal of our school. We have a panel of people who work together on our admissions committee. And we work together to really find not only the best child, because we all have great kids, but also the best family. And that's really, really important in terms of building community. And a big reason why you're going to send your child to a school like HTS is because of the community. If you feel like you're looking only for an academic program, there's lots of schools you could look at, but if you're looking for a school that's going to really enrich your child's experience as they learn and become good human beings, then you're going to certainly want to look at a school like HTS, right? So go ahead, yeah.
就是最后在这个 parent interview 这个环节呢，咱们主要他们比如说校方或者说 HTS 想了解的是什么呢？一个就是我们作为父母是以一个什么样的角色在帮助咱们的孩子们健康成长，也就是说和家庭的教育观、价值观，包括教育理念。HTS 希望做一个比较简单的了解。那这个情况之下呢，也是基于什么样的一个 principle 一个原则呢？就是学校以及学生还有家庭这个3方是一个协同合作的关系，也就是说是 partners。那只有在我们大家都做好自己的这个 play 好自己的这个角色，以及在出现什么样的情况或者问题的时候，可以一块儿协同合作。那只有在这样的情况之下呢，孩子才能真正的健康成长，而且是一个比较均衡的方式。所以我们的很多家长朋友们可能在准备面试的时候会觉得非常的紧张，但是实际上就是展现自己家庭真实的面貌，然后我们有什么样的一些，比如说教育孩子的心路历程或者说是和孩子之间沟通的一些方式方法呀，这些都是可以在面试当中是一个角度，或者说是从咱们的视角来向学校展示一下，我们希望在孩子的教育过程当中是起到一个什么样的角色，扮演一个什么样的角色，起到什么样的作用等等所以这一点也是 HTS 会在其他它所需要的板块之外，它会额外的会花一些时间和这个父母单独的进行一个 interview。
Thank you. I'm just going to conclude. I think if you're thinking about our school, I'll leave you with this in terms of our values. And I think when I think about these values, I've stressed the importance of character. We're committed to creating inclusive spaces. we talked a little bit about how the learning is, while people are thinking about the end, it's really about the process, and the focus is on that journey. And I also want to leave you with the idea that when you're thinking of a school and if you're looking for something that's progressive, where innovation sort of is the underlying current of every component of our school and how we approach it from kindergarten to grade 12, whether it's campus or through our online school, you're going to find that our school is always thinking ahead, and many times 10 steps ahead. And if you, once you walk into our school and into our community, you'll notice very quickly just by how you engage with our students and with our student leader, with our school leaders, just to give you a sense of what that looks like. So I'll invite you certainly to come to our open house in the fall. And if you want to get a sneak peek of the campus, because I know you haven't seen it, you're welcome to join us on May 28th, which will be a Tuesday tour. So you can register for that online if you like. And I'll leave that, really for questions. If anybody has if you two have questions, or if there's anything in the Zoom, in the chat box, I'm happy to take the next few minutes and answer some questions.
好，那咱们现在的话呢，就来到了这个线上以及线下，咱们有什么样的问题，咱们可以随时提问。那家长朋友们可以花一些时间，然后把自己的问题打在这个 chat box 里面。那我们看见了新的问题呢，咱们就会问一问 Praveen，然后利用这个很好的机会，听一听这个 HTS 大招官的官方的这个比较 official 的回复。
We have a very competitive girls volleyball is huge at HTS. We're probably #1 in the province at the moment. That's girls volleyball. Competitive sports beginning grade 4. So I know your son's going to grade SK, so he's got some time. But I also, our boys basketball team is also doing quite well in I think our senior school basketball team. Middle school teams, I'm not sure where they're at. I think rugby does okay. But certainly if your son likes to play sports, keep him on the lookout. And we, beyond the teams, we also have a high performance athletic program. So for students who play sports at a competitive level, and we do have a few, we also accommodate and adjust the programming to support those students. So we have kids who are racing cars. We have kids who are, elite fencers. We have a child who's going to the Olympics this summer in grade 11. Fencing. Right. And so she does it outside, fencing outside, but we can build her program to accommodate and help support her. And like that, we've got kids even in, elite volleyball. So, there's the competitive volleyball that they play, in the leagues here, but some of our kids are playing at a level that they're expecting to play on the national team. So we have that, and we encourage that. We also encourage the learning that goes side by side with that, right?
This is great, and I might just want to jump in because I think this is going to be something that
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
other families would be very interested to learn about. 刚才咱们家长问了一下，就是 HTS 整体的这个运动的水平，包括他们学校的校队有什么样？那 Praveen 给咱们举了几个比较 quick example 一个是女子的这个排球，现在是属于省级非常数一数二的这个有。比较很高的一个位置，然后呢，打的也是非常好。那另外呢，他们除了有就是这种体育竞技类的 volleyball 之外，他们还有能够像这个青年国家队比齐的这样的等级的，应该说这样 level 的 players。所以咱们之前还听到 Praveen 讲了一下，就是从4年级开始 ，HTS 的 competitive sport 是从4年级开始，也就是说从4年级就可以开始踊跃的参加各种可以进行校际的比赛、校内的比赛、学校之间的，然后他们自己本身的这个竞体联盟的比赛，然后一直从这个region 打到 city， 然后打到 provincial， 然后以及更高的这种等级的比赛。那同时呢，男子的话呢是篮球是非常强的然后 athletic programs 整体是有很多不一样的这个 programs 可以选择，或者说以不同的 sports 可以选择。那再来就是 fencing 是非常强的，而且是要去奥林匹克的这种等级的 player， 所以 it's very impressive。好，然后咱们家长还有其他的问题可以提问一下。那我们之前这个问卷的时候呢，也有家长留下了一些问题 ，so there are some questions that we have received via the questionnaire that we sent out before. So I think it's a good chance while we wait for the other parents to send out their questions. And there's one particular question that I think is pretty interesting, which is we talked a little bit about the 2 to 3 minute presentation that a middle school and a senior school applicants are asked to do.
Yeah.
And there are parents who are interested in like whether or not we could share some of the commonalities that we see among the successful candidates, like what would make them stand out? I know you talked a little
Yeah,
bit about
absolutely.
bringing the physical objects and show and tell,
Yeah,
but there could be a little more
absolutely.
details.
Authentic. I think when students come to the presentation, we want to see them in their most truest sense. And so I've seen the best presentations that I've seen, it hasn't been about being perfect. It's been really about being authentic. I've had kids be very creative. Some of them have sung songs because they're passionate about music. We've had some kids build items and show us what they built and sort of made it a connection to HTS. It's all about how you connect it to the school and how you connect it to how you will make an impact in the community. And, generally, I can't stress how important it is for children and students to be authentic. We know when a student has worked with a consultant. We know when a student is getting the perfect answer because they've lost the ability to say what they think they're saying what they think the school wants to hear and not what they want to say. And I think that's really important when our students are going through this process, not to try to be perfect, but just try to focus on being themselves.
Right, absolutely.
And the preparation is, you have to prepare for it.
Right.
Because I think if you show up and just don't prepare, it's also very obvious.
Right.
Right. So
it's that the delicate balance between not preparing at all to being over prepared and not being authentic in the end.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
接下来这个问题，实际上我们问了 Praveen，就是他们有一个比较特色的是，从初中就是中学部开始，申请的学生们会做一个2到3分钟的 presentation。那在这个 presentation 里面，大家最主要要回答的问题就是，你将如何成为 HTS 的一员？也就是说，如果你进了 HTS， 你会以一个什么角度来帮助 HTS 整个校园可能更好的发展？那么Praveen跟咱们 share 了一下他见过的最好的 presentation， 不是一点的不准备，也不是非常机械化的，就是把自己提前准备好的东西背下来，或者是单纯的去 please school， 就是学校想听什么我就讲什么，都不是这两种类型的，而是一个非常真实和自然的状态。他有可能会觉得很紧张，或者他有可能觉得发挥的没有特别好，但是他的这种真诚的感觉和他真实性把自己真正想要表达的表达出来，这些是学校非常 evaluate， 而且是很 appreciate 这样的学生。那比如说很喜欢音乐，那可以在现场唱一首，高歌一下，然后表达一下自己对于音乐的喜爱，对于艺术的热爱，或者说对于他自己歌唱的一些这种造诣等等。那还有是自己动手能力比较强的，可以自己做一个什么，然后这也是今年 Praveen 见到过的真实的例子，拿到学校去，然后呢，通过自己的一些讲解，能够让学校感觉到哦，this is how you want to connect， 这是你希望和我们进行连接，这是你希望可以成为学校一员的一个方式。所以总而言之非常重要的一点呢，就是在我们整体 present 的这个过程当中，展示真实的自我，同时呢，是真的有认真的思考过，我为什么很适合 HTS。那这个问题以孩子们自己的视角来进行解读，就会很有意思。所以这是 Praveen 刚才提到的。
I will say one thing. I've seen presentations that are done on like PowerPoint. I've seen people bring a ball, like a soccer ball, or bring their fencing gear. Somebody brought a puzzle, I've seen all of these things. The one thing that I would say probably is something not to do is to have an overly published book. And I think I've seen these booklets sometimes where people have all the accomplishments of their children. And I know at that moment, the child didn't do any of it. It's the parents who did the whole booklet. So as a parent, the best way to support your child is to let them do it themselves, right? And because we can tell, right? So, yeah.
所以还有一点要注意的哈，就是这个 presentation 或者说整体，当我们和学校去 present 自己的时候呢，咱们要注意，这不是一个所谓的就是表彰，或者说是不是所谓的我要把我过去所有做的东西大的小的我就都写上，然后我就照着念，或者说我就给展示一下，有这么长一个 list， 这都是我曾经的一些荣誉或者我做过的事儿。更多的是 就是聚焦在当下，然后以一个真实自然的状态去应对，不管是什么样的问题，或者是学校比较想要了解的部分，最终还是这个形式或者说是它的整个的 format 实际上不是最重要的，你的内容和孩子自己真正想要表达的东西是学校最看重的，所以这个也是我们在准备的过程当中可以这个稍微避坑你们就不要再踩这些踩雷了。好，那there's another question that we've been hearing from the parents almost all the time, which is whether there are any practical advice or any tips from the school side regarding how they should really focus on preparing their profiles, because there are many different ways, like for example writing comprehensive almost essay-like responses to the questions that the school will be asking.
For the parents,
right? Like for the overall preparation kit, basically. And just, well, many parents or families would have a little difficulty regarding like, where do I really stress, or how do I, like, what do I prioritize? There are many things that the school would want, but what should they prioritize, or what should I think about before getting ready?
We often hear families talking to us a lot about how the message of curiosity resonates with them. And I think it's important. But then they tell us that their child is doing 10,000 activities after school and they're doing after school programming till 9 o'clock at night. So the idea of curiosity and over programming aren't aligned. So I always say to families, think about why you want a specific school. The academic reputation for all of our schools is very good. Whether you look at HTS or any other school, they're all great schools. We're lucky. We're all very lucky to be living in a city, in a community where there's great schools around us. But you have to look at the values of the school and see which one aligns with your family, because that's where we're going to make this partnership for the next 12, 14 years. And so you want to have that commitment, right? And we want to have a commitment both ways. So I always think there's nothing that a child needs to overthink in terms of the preparation. I think they just need to be themselves. And there's times that we have to say very difficultly, that in a very difficult fashion, that there's your son may not be ready for the school at this point, but that doesn't mean they're never coming to HTS. It just means they're not ready today. And that's sometimes difficult. And I try to have those conversations with families. I also try to be very direct, because I think it's important, because if there's opportunities to help a child, I want to help you as a parent, help your child or children. And I say son, but son or daughter, I know that because you're talking about sons here in the room, but we work with our families. We want to help support them and support their children through this process. I think the one thing that we've noticed also is the writing piece is something that's really important for kids. And sometimes we don't put as much time into the writing. The math is really important. We focus a lot on that side of things, but sometimes the communication isn't always there. And there's verbal, oral communication, but there's also writing communication. So as kids get to that grade 3, 4, 5, encouraging them to read, encouraging them to write and reflect is very helpful in preparing children for admission to the school. Because we do ask all the kids, while the parents are being interviewed for half an hour, we ask the children to go and do a writing sample. So we give them a prompt and then they have to write for 20 minutes. Now, when I say, as you're thinking, oh, come on, is my child going to be ready for this in grade 1? For all kids going into grade 6 and higher, they have to do the writing piece. For our grade 2 to 6, grade 2 to 5 kids, they come and spend a morning with us. They hang out with one student in our class and they'll spend a full morning with us. JK to 1, there's no physical writing sample, but we do ask them several questions, prompt questions, to get to see how they're thinking about things, right? So.
Right, I think that add on is valuable. 刚才 Praveen 又提到了一个很重要的点哈，就是在咱们我刚才问了一个问题，这个问题实际上就是我们在准备的过程当中是需要优先的考虑的点有哪些，或者说咱们在准备的过程当中究竟怎么准备才能够最好的把我们孩子的一个真实的情况展示出来。那 Praveen 提到了几个点，第一个点就是 首先一定要了解学校一定要足够了解学校，而不是说我以一种千篇一律的态度，或者说我是一个 one size fits all，there's no one size fits all in this case。我们需要做到的就是真正的为自己的孩子量身定制，我究竟需要怎么样才能够最突出孩子自己本身的个性。那Praveen 这块提到了一个点是什么？就是 curiosity。HTS 对于 curiosity 的追求和这个 stress 是非常之强的，而且他们强调的是 natural curiosity，就是孩子自己本身，他就是对于自己感兴趣的东西特别有旺盛的求知欲。那么这种旺盛的求知欲怎么样去展现呢？那 Praveen 也提到，他不是说，咱家长可能讲说我的孩子一直以来就是做各种各样的不同的课外活动，然后从可能早上9点一直到晚上10点，他都不停，他就一直有各种各样的就是很多的这样的活动。那这个活动实际上给孩子自己留出自主思考，或者说他自己去develop 自己兴趣的时间，实际上很少的，也就是两相矛盾。所以咱们在准备的这个过程当中，并不是说我的活动写得多么丰富精彩，或者有多多，我的孩子可能就会越出彩，而是我怎么样来真的展现孩子自己本身的这个 curiosity，他是向学的，同时他也是好学的，而且他的学习能力是很强的。所以这一点是一个很重要的一点。这个实际上也不仅仅是咱们说是这个申请 HTS，任何其他的学校其实都是一样，就是你怎么样能够真的切合学校的 values，学校它自己本身的教育理念，然后和家庭自己的教育理念做一个结合，然后再去展现出来，这个是很关键的一点。另外的一点呢，实际上也是很 practical 的一个建议就是从2年级开始呢 ，Praveen 就建议咱们孩子们平常要认真读书，要多读，然后呢，读写的能力是沟通的基础。那沟通呢，是未来必不可少的一个技能，不管是他言语上的口头上的沟通，还是说他学术英语这样的这个language 的沟通，这个实际上是非常非常关键的。也就是现在可能很多孩子在小的时候虽然不觉得，但是渐渐长大了之后就有点偏科的感觉，就是数学类的、理科类的可能都很强，但是跟语言相关的，不管是说呀，还是说是完成课业呀，或者说是可能和这个学校方面老师同学之间的沟通，它就会显得稍弱一些。所以所有6年级以上的申请者都会要进行一个 writing assignment，就是一个 assessment。这个 assessment 就会让大家按照给出的一个 prompt， 一个题就是有点半命题的那种感觉，然后他要自己写一个小的作文，或者说小的 essay。那这个时候呢，咱们还是需要把读写的这个能力要尽早的抓起来这个对于孩子以后发展也是很有帮助的。好，那我们也可以看见在 chat box 里面呢 ，Praveen 给大家发了几个链接，这几个链接呢就是有 Tuesday Tour， 然后呢从5月28号开始就有 Tuesday Tour， 那这个就可以在线上直接的预约，然后其他的我们也可以留言，然后呢大家可以和 HTS 方面取得更多的联系。咱看看还有没有什么其他的问题是家长朋友们比较好奇，或者说比较想要问，咱们还可以大概有1到2个问题，最后的一个时间。咱们可以这个家长朋友们可以踊跃的参与一下。All right, I think if not, the wrapping off question that we do have is
sure.
for the senior students who are about to apply to universities or you're about to go off for universities, which areas of studies or the academic streams or passes do we see most often from the HTS graduates?
Between STEM, you'll see, I think it's about 35% or 40% almost.
Okay.
And then you'll have so science, technology, engineering, and math, and then you'll see another 30% in business. And then between arts and some direct entry programs, you will see some more students in those areas. The key is, I mean, I think we had 88 graduates. I think they went to 60 different programs or 50 different programs. It was a very diverse group of universities and colleges and programs that they ended up selecting. And I will send that out as well. Once people, if they wish to complete an inquiry, we can send them a digital copy of our review book.
This is nice. This is thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. 我这个去年88个毕业生，差不多他们88个人，有超过60个不同的 programs，也就是非常的 diverse，很均衡。那整体以数字上来说的话，大概35%是 STEM 类的，然后有另外的20%到30%是 science，就是理工科类的，然后还有30%是 business 类的，就是商科，然后还有剩下的一部分是 arts humanities，这个就是人文社科类的学习。那实际上这个里面，像我们比较了解，就是它每一个大的 umbrella 下面有很多个不同的细分专业。那我们可以看到的是，不管是这个强理工科的，还是这个 science related，或者是 business，他们实际上整个孩子们展现出来的这个就是方向是很多样化的。然后这个整体的能够去未来 pursue 的道路其实也是非常之多的。也就是说，不管咱们孩子是理工很强，还是以后想走商科，还是想要走人文类的一些学习，学校都会有相应的资源辅助。他们也在每一年不同的这个毕业生当中看到了我们的 successful examples。所以OK，那咱们今天实际上差不多就可以到这儿，咱们 wrap up。然后之后欢迎大家跟我们取得联系。然后呢，如果有其他的一些问题，咱们后续也可以不断的持续的跟进。好，那 Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank
being
you.
such an awesome speaker.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
OK，那我们下次再见，拜拜。